The sensor screen flickered with data that made no sense. Admiral Vorin stared at the numbers while his 3 hearts beat faster than they had in 200 years. Something massive had appeared on their instruments at a distance so close that it violated every law of space warfare he had learned during his 3 centuries of service. "Run the diagnostic again," he ordered, keeping his voice steady despite the growing unease in his chest. The bridge crew of the Eternal Dominion moved with practiced efficiency, but he could see the confusion on their faces. Lieutenant Scylla, barely 50 years old and fresh from the academy, worked frantically at her station. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls as she triple-checked the readings. When she looked up, her face had gone pale. "Sir, the diagnostic confirms it. There is a vessel at 50,000 kilometers. It appeared without any warning." 50,000 kilometers. The number echoed in Vorin's mind like a death sentence. At that distance, an enemy could destroy his flagship before they could even raise shields. No ship in the known galaxy could get that close without being detected hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. The Dravix Empire had the most advanced sensors in existence. They had crushed 17 civilizations with that technological advantage alone. "Visual confirmation," Captain Renth demanded from his position beside the Admiral. The main view screen shifted, and the bridge fell silent. A human battleship hung in space like a dark omen. Its hull was unlike anything in the Dravix database. Where their ships were built with elegant curves and shining metal, this vessel looked brutal and functional. Angular surfaces covered in what appeared to be non-reflective plating made it seem like a piece of the void itself had taken shape. "Identification codes?" Vorin asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir. The vessel is broadcasting nothing. No transponder, no hailing frequencies, no energy emissions we can detect. It just sits there." Vorin activated the Empire-wide emergency channel. His superiors needed to know immediately. Humans had only made contact with the Galactic Council 40 years ago. They were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Their homeworld had been surveyed and dismissed as a minor concern. Yet here sat one of their warships, having bypassed every defense system the Dravix possessed. "Sir, incoming transmission," the communications officer announced. "It's from the human vessel. They're speaking our language." A female voice filled the bridge, clear and precise. "Dravix flagship Eternal Dominion. This is Captain Daniels of the United Human Naval Ship Defiant. We mean you no harm. We have been observing your tactical exercises for the past 3 days and wish to introduce ourselves properly." 3 days. The words hit Vorin like a physical blow. He looked at Scylla, who was already pulling up the sensor logs. Her hands shook as she worked. "Admiral," she whispered, "there are anomalies in our records. Small fluctuations I dismissed as stellar interference. Sir, they were here the entire time. We just couldn't see them." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as officers checked and rechecked their instruments. Vorin raised one hand for silence. He had faced battle fleets and political intrigue throughout his long career, but this was different. This was an enemy who had watched them for days without being detected, an enemy who could have destroyed them at any moment. "Open a channel," he ordered, straightening his uniform. He would not show fear, even if he felt it crawling up his spine. The view screen shifted to show the interior of the human ship. Captain Daniels stood in what appeared to be a command center far smaller than his own bridge. Where the Eternal Dominion required 200 crew members to operate, he could see perhaps 15 humans at their stations. Yet the technology surrounding them looked disturbingly advanced. Daniels was a small creature by Dravix standards, barely reaching what would be chest height on one of his officers. But her eyes held an intelligence that made Vorin uncomfortable. She smiled, showing her predator teeth. "Admiral Vorin, a pleasure to finally speak with you directly. Your defensive formations are quite impressive." "You have violated our space," Vorin said, keeping his tone formal, "and demonstrated hostile capabilities by concealing your presence." Hostile? Daniels tilted her head. Admiral, if we were hostile, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We could have disabled your flagship at any point during the last 72 hours. Instead, we chose to observe and learn. Knowledge before action is a human principle. She tapped something off-screen, and data began flooding the Dravik systems. Voron's officers scrambled to contain what they assumed was an attack, but it was just information. Tactical readouts of their own exercises, documented with precision that suggested the humans had seen everything. "This is impossible," Captain Renth muttered. "Our stealth detection systems are the finest in the galaxy." Daniels heard him somehow. "Your systems are indeed impressive, Captain, but they're designed to detect energy signatures and mass displacements. Our ships operate on different principles. We don't hide from your sensors. We simply exist in a state your sensors aren't built to recognize." Voron's communication panel lit up with an urgent priority message from Dravik's high command. Emperor Thaxius himself was demanding a report. The admiral glanced at the message and felt his blood chill. The order was clear: detain or destroy the human vessel. The Empire could not allow this humiliation to stand. "Captain Daniels," Voron began, choosing his words carefully, "I have received orders regarding your ship." "I know," she replied calmly. "We've been monitoring your communications. Admiral, I hope you'll consider an alternative to following those orders. Violence benefits neither of our people." The sensor officer gasped. "Sir, the human vessel is powering up weapon systems. Energy readings are off the scale." Voron looked at the human captain. She hadn't moved, hadn't changed expression. But on his tactical display, the Defiant was now showing power levels that exceeded anything in the Dravik's arsenal. "Just a precaution, Admiral," Daniels said softly. "We really do prefer to talk." 12 warships surrounded the human vessel within minutes. Voron had called in every ship within range, hoping that overwhelming numbers would compensate for whatever technological advantage the humans possessed. The tactical display showed his fleet forming a perfect encirclement pattern, each ship positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire. Lieutenant Scylla studied her instruments with growing concern. "Admiral, the human ship hasn't moved. They're just sitting there while we surround them." "Perhaps they realize resistance is futile," Captain Renth suggested, though his tone lacked conviction. Voron wasn't so certain. He had studied the reports from humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. The humans had been polite, cooperative, and seemingly eager to learn. But there had been incidents. A pirate fleet that tried to raid a human colony had simply disappeared. A Kravan trade consortium that attempted to cheat human merchants found their entire communication network mysteriously disabled. Nothing overt, nothing that could be proven, but a pattern nonetheless. The communication channel crackled to life again. "Admiral Voron, I see you've called in reinforcements. I understand you have your orders, but I hope we can find a peaceful resolution." Voron leaned forward. "Captain Daniels, you have demonstrated technology that poses a significant threat to the Empire. I cannot simply allow you to leave. I am offering you one opportunity to surrender for inspection. Your crew will not be harmed." There was a pause. Voron could hear quiet conversation in the background of the human bridge. When Daniels spoke again, she sounded almost sad. "Admiral, I cannot accept those terms. However, I can offer a demonstration of human capabilities. Perhaps it will help you understand that we seek partnership, not conflict." Before Voron could respond, his science officer shouted in alarm. "Sir, the human vessel is activating some kind of field generator. I've never seen readings like this." A shimmering barrier appeared around the Defiant, visible to the naked eye as it distorted the stars behind it. The barrier pulsed with colors that seemed to exist outside the normal spectrum, making it painful to look at directly. "What is that?" Renth demanded. Scylla worked her controls rapidly. "It's not an energy shield. The readings suggest it's manipulating space itself, creating a kind of buffer zone between dimensions. But one of the Dravik's cruisers, the Relentless, fired without orders. A junior weapons officer, panicked by the strange display, had launched a plasma torpedo. Vorin cursed as the weapon streaked toward the human ship. The torpedo struck the barrier and simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no energy dispersal, nothing. It was as if the weapon had been erased from reality. "Impressive reaction time," Daniels commented. "Though I should mention that was unnecessary. Admiral, I truly don't want to hurt anyone, but I need you to understand something important." The human ship rotated slowly, presenting its broadside to the Dravik's fleet. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing armaments that Vorin's database couldn't identify. "We're going to fire a single demonstration round," Daniels continued. "It will pass through your formation without harming any of your ships. I want you to observe where it goes and what it does." "Belay that," Vorin started to say, but the human ship had already fired. A projectile launched from the Defiant, but instead of traveling in a straight line, it seemed to fold space around itself. The round passed between two Dravik's destroyers, and Vorin's sensors registered something impossible. The projectile had moved through a point in space that shouldn't exist, creating a temporary tunnel in reality itself. The round detonated 1,000 kilometers beyond the fleet. The explosion was unlike anything Vorin had witnessed in 3 centuries of warfare. A sphere of pure energy expanded and collapsed in microseconds, releasing power equivalent to a stellar detonation. The shockwave buffeted every ship in the formation, sending damage alerts cascading across Vorin's console. "That," Daniels said quietly, "was our smallest conventional weapon fired at minimum yield. We have 47 more like it loaded. We also have weapons you cannot detect, cannot defend against, and frankly wouldn't understand even if I explained them. But Admiral, we don't want to use them." The bridge of the Eternal Dominion was silent. Scylla stared at her instruments in disbelief. Captain Renth had gone completely still, his combat instincts recognizing a predator far above his weight class. Vorin's personal communication panel chimed. Emperor Thaxius appeared on the private screen, his face twisted with rage. "Admiral, you will attack that vessel with full force immediately. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives." For the first time in his long career, Vorin considered disobeying a direct order from his emperor. He looked at the tactical display, at his 12 ships surrounding a single human vessel, a vessel that could destroy them all with ease. "Your Majesty," Vorin began carefully, "I believe the situation requires a diplomatic approach." "You dare question me?" The Emperor's voice rose. "You will attack, or I will have you executed for cowardice and replace you with someone who will follow orders." The channel went dead. Vorin sat in his command chair weighing his options. If he attacked, his entire fleet would be destroyed. If he refused, he would be branded a traitor. Either way, he was finished. Lieutenant Scylla cleared her throat. "Sir, what if we tried talking to them? Really talking, I mean, not just demands and threats." Vorin looked at the young officer. She was right, of course. He opened a direct channel to the Defiant. "Captain Daniels, I believe we started this encounter poorly. Would you be willing to begin again with honest dialogue instead of posturing?" Before Daniels could answer, half of Vorin's fleet suddenly turned their weapons toward his flagship. Override codes from High Command had seized control of 6 ships. The Empire had just declared him a traitor. "Well," Daniels said, and Vorin could hear the steel in her voice now, "I guess we're both in trouble. Here's a thought, Admiral. What if we help each other?" The Defiant moved between Admiral Vorin's flagship and the 6 turncoat vessels before anyone could react. The human battleship positioned itself as a living shield, its strange dimensional barrier expanding to encompass the Eternal Dominion. "All ships cease fire," Vorin ordered the vessels still under his command. He had 6 ships loyal to him and 6 controlled by the Emperor's override codes. The human ship made the situation even more complicated. "Negative, Admiral," came a response from the cruiser Vengeance. "High Command has assumed direct control. You are ordered to surrender immediately." Lieutenant Scylla worked frantically at her station. "Sir, I'm trying to break their override codes, but the encryption is military grade. It would take hours to crack." Captain Daniel's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral Voren, I'm invoking ancient galactic sanctuary law. Any being unjustly condemned has the right to claim protection. You chose peace over blind obedience. That deserves respect, not execution. The humans dare invoke our own laws against us." The voice belonged to Admiral Krennish, commander of the Turncoat Fleet. "Emperor Thaxius, the primitives mock us." On Voren's private screen, the Emperor's face had turned a deep purple with rage. "Then we will treat this as an act of war. Destroy them all." The 6 Imperial-controlled ships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma torpedoes and particle beams converged on the Defiant's position. Voren watched in horror, certain that both ships would be destroyed despite the humans' confident words. The dimensional barrier flared brilliant white. Every single weapon impact simply vanished, absorbed into whatever impossible physics the humans had mastered. Not a single shot reached either the Defiant or the Eternal Dominion sheltering behind it. "Interesting," Daniels commented, her tone almost casual. "Your weapons have improved since we last analyzed them. The plasma torpedoes now carry a 42% higher yield. Commander Riley, please respond appropriately." A man's voice answered from somewhere on the human bridge. "Point defense systems engaging. Targeting enemy weapons only." Voren watched his tactical display in amazement. The Defiant fired dozens of tiny projectiles, each one moving with impossible precision. The projectiles didn't target the attacking ships themselves. Instead, they struck weapon emplacements with surgical accuracy, disabling turrets and missile tubes without causing casualties. Within 30 seconds, all 6 Imperial ships had been rendered effectively harmless. Not destroyed, not crippled, just disarmed. "This is a courtesy," Daniels announced on an open channel. "Your crews are unharmed, your ships are intact, but you will not threaten peaceful beings under human protection." Admiral Krennish sputtered in rage. "You think this changes anything? The Emperor commands hundreds of vessels. Your single ship cannot stand against the might of the Dravix Empire." "You're right," Daniels agreed. "One ship probably couldn't. Good thing we brought friends." Voren's sensors suddenly lit up with new contacts. 11 more human vessels appeared on his display, materializing from apparently empty space. They surrounded the entire Dravix formation at various distances, each one positioned with clear tactical purpose. But that wasn't what made Voren's blood run cold. His deep space scanners, which monitored the home system, were showing alerts. Dozens of human signatures had appeared near the Dravix homeworld itself, not attacking, just present. A clear message: "We can reach you anywhere." Lieutenant Scylla gasped. "Sir, how did they get so many ships here without us detecting anything?" "We've been in your space for weeks," Commander Riley explained, his voice carrying an edge of satisfaction. "Observing, learning, preparing. We hoped for a peaceful introduction to galactic politics. The Emperor made that difficult." Emperor Thaxius stared from Voren's screen, his expression shifting from rage to something approaching fear. For the first time in the Empire's 1,000-year history, someone had outmaneuvered them completely. "What do you want?" the Emperor finally asked, his voice tight. "Conversation," Daniels replied simply. "Admiral Voren showed wisdom when he chose dialogue over violence. We would like to extend that same opportunity to your entire empire. No demands for territory, no tribute, no subjugation. Just talk." Voren saw his opportunity and took it. "Your Majesty, the humans have demonstrated capabilities far beyond our current understanding, but they've also shown restraint. They could have destroyed us all. Instead, they protected those who sought peace. The emperor's jaw worked silently for a moment. Political calculation warred with pride on his face. Finally, he spoke. "Very well, we will talk, but this conversation will happen on neutral ground with proper diplomatic protocols." "Agreed," Daniel said. "We propose using the human vessel Defiant as neutral ground. Your representatives can inspect our ship, see our technology, and understand that we mean what we say. Transparency builds trust." 3 hours later, Vorin found himself aboard the human battleship, walking through corridors that seemed impossibly spacious for a crew of only 50 humans. The tour was revealing in ways he hadn't expected. In the medical bay, he saw nanotechnology that could heal injuries within minutes. The engineering section showed power systems that operated at efficiencies the Draviks thought theoretically impossible. The armory contained weapons that made his 3 hearts skip in synchronized fear. But it was the crew themselves that truly surprised him. They were young, mostly, and diverse in ways Dravik society had abandoned centuries ago. They talked and laughed while working, showed genuine curiosity about their guests, and treated everyone with respect regardless of rank. Lieutenant Scylla walked beside him, her eyes wide with wonder. "Admiral, their computer systems are integrated with biological neural networks. The ship thinks, adapts, learns. It's not just technology, it's almost alive." Captain Daniels joined them in what she called the observation deck. Through massive windows, the stars shone with a clarity that made even the Eternal Dominion's viewscreens seem primitive. "We're not conquerors, Admiral," Daniels said quietly. "Earth taught us hard lessons about the cost of war. We nearly destroyed ourselves before we learned to cooperate. Now we want to share those lessons with the galaxy." Vorin looked at the human captain. "Why reveal all this? You could have maintained your advantage, kept your capabilities secret." "Because secrets breed fear and fear breeds conflict," Daniels replied. "We'd rather have allies than subjects. Besides, we have a bigger problem coming." She activated a holographic display showing deep space scan data. Something enormous was moving through the void between galaxies, heading toward their position. Estimated arrival, 20 years. "We can't face that alone," Daniels said. "Neither can you, but together maybe we have a chance." The negotiation chamber aboard the Defiant held representatives from both sides of the Dravik's conflict. Admiral Vorin sat across from Admiral Krennish, the commander who had tried to destroy him hours earlier. Between them, Captain Daniels facilitated the discussion with patience that seemed endless. Emperor Thaxius had sent his chief diplomat, a calculating individual named Praxis who had negotiated the surrender of 7 civilizations. The emperor himself refused to attend, calling it beneath his station. Vorin suspected the real reason was fear. "The emperor's position is clear," Praxis began, his voice smooth as silk. "The Dravik's empire will not be dictated to by newcomers. If humans wish to exist peacefully in our territory, they will acknowledge our sovereignty and pay appropriate tribute." Commander Riley, who stood beside Captain Daniels, actually laughed. "Tribute? You're not in a position to demand anything. Did you miss the part where we disabled your fleet and have ships positioned throughout your home system?" "Empty threats," Praxis countered. "You claim to be peaceful, yet you demonstrate military might. Which is the truth?" Daniels raised a hand for calm. "Both are true. We have the capability for violence but prefer cooperation. Think of it like this. A doctor carries a scalpel which can be used to heal or to harm. The tool is neutral. Intent is what matters." Lieutenant Scylla, attending as Vorin's technical advisor, spoke up. "Captain Daniels, your demonstration showed weapons that manipulate space-time. Our scientists have theorized such technology but never achieved it. How did humans accomplish in 40 years what the Empire couldn't in 1,000? "Desperation and diversity," Daniels answered. "Earth almost destroyed itself in global wars. We had hundreds of nations, thousands of cultures, each approaching problems differently. When we finally united, we brought all those perspectives together. Innovation came from combining ideas, not enforcing conformity. Vorin understood the implication. The Dravix Empire had conquered and absorbed other species, but always forced them to adopt Dravix culture and thinking. They had eliminated diversity in pursuit of unity, and in doing so, had stifled innovation. Admiral Krennic shifted uncomfortably. The Emperor will never accept equality with lesser species. The hierarchy is what holds the Empire together. Then perhaps the Empire needs to change, Vorin said quietly. The words were treason, but after today he was already a traitor. We've stagnated, Krennic. Our technology hasn't significantly advanced in 300 years. We maintain power through force, not innovation. The humans have shown us a better way. Heresy, Praxis hissed. The Emperor's wisdom has guided us for centuries. Daniels pulled up a holographic display. Let me show you what we found during our exploration of this region. The image showed scanned data of multiple star systems. 7 civilizations that the Dravix Empire conquered. Their populations reduced to servitude, their cultures erased. And here's what concerns us most. The display shifted to show technological progression charts. Every species you conquered was on the verge of significant breakthroughs when you attacked them. The Kelith were developing advanced biotechnology. The Servin had discovered new physics principles. The Morthan were creating revolutionary computing systems. All of that potential, all that innovation, lost because it threatened your dominance. The room fell silent. Even Praxis seemed shaken by the implications. Now look at this, Daniels continued, showing new data. The extragalactic anomaly we detected. It's massive, moving with purpose, and will reach this galaxy in 20 years. Our best analysis suggests it's a constructed object, not natural. Something built it and sent it here. Commander Riley added, we've run simulations using our most advanced systems. If that thing is hostile, no single species in this galaxy can stop it. The Dravix Empire can't. Humanity can't. The entire Galactic Council can't. Our only chance is working together. You're using fear to manipulate us, Praxis accused, creating a false threat to justify your interference. Check our data yourself, Daniels offered, transmitting the full sensor logs. We have nothing to hide. This threat is real, and it's coming whether you believe us or not. Scylla downloaded the data and began analyzing it on her portable console. Her face went pale as she worked through the calculations. Admiral Vorin, this is accurate. The energy signatures match nothing in our database. Whatever it is, it's beyond our current understanding. Vorin made a decision that would change everything. Captain Daniels, what exactly are you proposing? A new alliance, Daniels said. Not based on hierarchy or conquest, but genuine cooperation. The Dravix Federation, if you choose to reform your government, would be an equal partner with humanity. We share technology, resources, and knowledge freely. Together, we invite other species to join us, not through force but through demonstrated benefits. The Emperor will never agree, Krennic said, but his tone had changed. He sounded less certain, more thoughtful. Then perhaps, Vorin said carefully, the Empire needs new leadership. The words hung in the air like an explosion. Praxis stood abruptly. You speak of rebellion, of overthrowing divine rule. I speak of survival, Vorin countered. The humans have shown us that our system is broken. We can either adapt or die. I choose adaptation. Krennic stood as well, and for a moment, Vorin thought his rival would denounce him. Instead, Krennic extended his hand in the Dravix gesture of alliance. I agree. The Emperor's pride will destroy us all if we let it. Other Dravix officers in the room began standing, one by one. Not all of them, but enough. A majority had formed in favor of change. Praxis looked around in horror. This is mutiny. The Emperor will have you all executed. The Emperor, Vorin said quietly, is about to discover that his authority depends on those willing to enforce it, and we are no longer willing. Daniels watched the political transformation with satisfaction. Commander Riley, please transmit a message to our diplomatic corps. The Dravix Empire is reforming. They'll need advisors for the transition. Already done, Captain, Riley replied with a smile. Vorin looked at the human captain with new respect. You planned this, all of it, from the moment you revealed yourselves. We hoped for it, Daniels corrected. Humans learned long ago that you can't force people to change. You can only create conditions where change becomes the logical choice. You and your officers chose this path yourselves. Outside the Defiant, the Dravix fleet was changing formation. Ships loyal to the old order found themselves surrounded by vessels that had chosen a new future. The rebellion was spreading through the ranks, officer by officer, ship by ship. The Dravix Empire was dead. What would replace it was still uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, there was hope for something better. The palace coup happened swiftly and with minimal bloodshed. Emperor Thaxius, realizing his military had abandoned him, attempted to activate the ancient Doomsday fleet orbiting the Dravix homeworld. 500 automated warships designed centuries ago to enforce imperial will through overwhelming destruction. The fleet powered up on command, its weapons systems targeting major population centers as leverage against the rebellion. For 10 terrifying minutes, billions of Dravix citizens believed they were about to die at their own emperor's hand. Then the entire Doomsday fleet simply shut down. Every ship, every weapon, every system went dark simultaneously. Admiral Vorin received a message from Captain Daniels. Sorry we didn't mention this earlier, but we've had infiltration teams aboard those platforms for 3 weeks. Seemed prudent given the Emperor's personality profile. The platforms are intact, just offline. You can repurpose them for actual defense instead of oppression. Vorin didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified that humans had penetrated the Empire's most secure facility without anyone noticing. He settled for both. Within hours, the Imperial Guard arrested Thaxius. The Emperor ranted about divine right and the natural order, but his words fell on deaf ears. The Dravix people, learning how close they had come to annihilation, demanded change. Lieutenant Scylla was assigned as the official liaison to the human delegation. She spent her days aboard the Defiant, learning about human technology and culture. What she discovered both fascinated and humbled her. Your medical technology could revolutionize our entire healthcare system, she told Commander Riley while touring the ship's medical bay. Nanomachines that repair tissue damage at the cellular level, diagnostic systems that identify problems before symptoms appear. Why share this freely? Riley adjusted a holographic display showing cellular regeneration. Because healthy people build better societies. When Earth unified, one of our first acts was making advanced healthcare available to everyone, not because it was profitable, but because it was right. We learned that investing in people's well-being pays dividends in ways money can't measure. Scylla watched a demonstration of the nanotechnology healing a simulated injury in seconds. On Dravix worlds, such technology would be reserved for the elite. The Emperor and his chosen few would have access, while common citizens suffered with inferior care. That's the difference, Riley said. We believe everyone deserves the best we can offer. Rising tides lift all boats, as we say on Earth. Meanwhile, Admiral Vorin faced the complex task of building a new government from the Empire's ruins. Representatives from conquered species arrived to participate in forming what they now called the Dravix Federation. Vorin found himself presiding over heated debates between groups that had hated each other for generations. Captain Daniels attended these sessions as an observer and occasional mediator. Her calm presence and practical suggestions helped prevent several potential violent confrontations. The Kelith want their homeworld returned to full autonomy, one representative argued. But Dravik's colonists have lived there for 200 years. Where do they go? Shared governance, Daniels suggested. Both groups have legitimate claims. Create a joint council where both Kelith and Draviks have equal representation. It won't be easy, but cooperation is possible if both sides want it. The Kelith representative, a being named Sarath, studied Daniels carefully. Why do humans care about our internal disputes? What do you gain from helping us? Partners, Daniels replied simply. We need allies to face what's coming. Strong allies who chose cooperation over coercion. Every species we help strengthen makes the entire galaxy more resilient. Sorath's expression softened. Your species is either remarkably naive or remarkably wise. I haven't decided which. Maybe both, Daniels said with a smile. The technical exchange between human and Dravik scientists produced rapid breakthroughs. Human innovation combined with Dravik's industrial capacity created results neither could achieve alone. Within weeks, they had designed new defensive systems that incorporated both species' strengths. But the most significant revelation came when Daniels finally revealed the full scope of humanity's preparations. We need to show you something, she told Vorin during a private meeting. The truth about how ready we actually are for the approaching threat. She activated a classified holographic display. Vorin watched as hundreds of icons appeared, each representing a human vessel. They weren't all battleships like the Defiant. There were hospital ships, colony vessels, research platforms, and massive construction ships capable of building orbital installations. We've been preparing for 15 years, Daniels explained. Since we first detected the anomaly approaching the galaxy, every ship, every piece of technology, every alliance we've formed has been moving toward this moment. 15 years, Vorin repeated. But you only made contact with the Galactic Council 40 years ago. You detected this threat when you were barely spacefaring. We got lucky, Commander Riley interjected. One of our first deep space probes encountered a smaller construct from whatever sent the big one. It transmitted a message. The galaxy was being evaluated. If we were found worthy, we would be contacted. If not, he trailed off, the implication clear. Vorin felt his understanding of the situation shift. This whole time, every action humanity has taken was to prove the galaxy deserves to survive. To prove we can work together, Daniels corrected. The message suggested the evaluation was about cooperation, not technology. A galaxy at war with itself would be considered failed. But a galaxy united, working toward common goals despite differences, that might be worth preserving. So when you revealed your capabilities to us, when you helped overthrow the Emperor, when you shared your technology, Vorin said slowly, you were demonstrating what the evaluators wanted to see. We were showing you what's possible, Daniels replied. The Dravik's empire represented everything wrong with galactic civilization: hierarchy, oppression, stagnation. The Federation represents hope for something better. That was always the goal. Lieutenant Scylla, who had been quietly listening, asked the question that everyone was thinking. What happens if we fail the evaluation? The holographic display shifted, showing data from the probe humanity had encountered years ago. The message was simple and terrifying. Civilizations that cannot transcend their primitive competitive nature will be removed to prevent galactic contamination. We don't fail, Vorin said with determination. We show them that this galaxy can change, can grow, can unite. The Federation is just the beginning. Daniels nodded. Exactly, and we have 20 years to transform galactic civilization from a collection of competing empires into a genuine cooperative. No pressure. Despite the gravity of the situation, Vorin found himself smiling. Humans had a strange habit of making jokes about serious matters. He was beginning to appreciate the value of that perspective. Outside the Defiant, the first joint human-Dravix construction project was beginning. A massive shipyard that would build vessels designed by both species, crewed by mixed teams, and dedicated to defending their shared future. The galaxy was changing, one alliance at a time. 15 years passed in what felt like moments. The transformation of galactic civilization happened faster than anyone had predicted. The Dravix Federation grew to include 47 species, each bringing unique perspectives and capabilities to the alliance. The old Galactic Council, built on hierarchy and exploitation, dissolved as its member species abandoned it for the new cooperative model. Admiral Vorin, now Chancellor Vorin of the Federation, stood aboard a ship that represented everything they had accomplished. The vessel was neither human nor Dravix, but truly both. Human technology merged with Dravix engineering to create something unprecedented. The ship was named Unity, and it was one of 300 similar vessels forming the defensive fleet. Lieutenant Silla, promoted to commander and serving as chief science officer, reviewed the final preparations. All ships report ready, Chancellor. The anomaly will arrive within the hour. 5 years remained on the original timeline, but the approaching entity had accelerated. Whether this was a good sign or bad, no one could say. Captain Daniels joined them on the bridge. She had aged visibly in 15 years, but her eyes still held that same sharp intelligence Vorin remembered from their first encounter. "Nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," Vorin admitted. "We've built this entire fleet, unified dozens of species, transformed our civilization, but we still don't know if it will be enough." "We've done what we could," Daniels replied. "The rest is up to them." The entity dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the galaxy's edge. Sensors struggled to comprehend its scale. The construct was larger than any star, a geometric structure that seemed to defy physics simply by existing. Energy patterns rippled across its surface in ways that suggested intelligence, purpose, and power beyond measurement. A message transmitted simultaneously to every ship in the fleet, every communication device in the galaxy. The voice that spoke seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, resonating in frequencies that touched the mind directly. "Greetings, inhabitants of this galaxy. We are the architects. We have observed your development for millennia. You now face evaluation." The fleet held position, weapons powered but not targeting. Vorin had insisted on this approach. They would show strength but not aggression, capability but not hostility. "For thousands of your years, we have watched civilizations rise and fall in this galaxy. Most fail the fundamental test. Can intelligent beings transcend their competitive nature to build something greater than themselves?" Images flooded every display, showing the history of galactic civilization. The rise and fall of empires, the wars that had consumed entire species, the cycles of conquest and subjugation. The Dravix Empire featured prominently, a cautionary tale of power without wisdom. "Your species have repeatedly demonstrated the same patterns. The strong dominate the weak. Innovation serves conquest. Cooperation is temporary and conditional. This cycle leads inevitably to stagnation and eventual extinction." Vorin felt his heart sink. They had changed so much, but had they changed enough? "However," the architects continued, and hope flickered back to life, "recent developments suggest a different path may be possible." The displays shifted, showing the last 15 years. The human arrival, the confrontation with the Dravix Empire, the formation of the Federation. The architects showed it all, narrated without judgment but with clear attention to detail. The humans demonstrated an alternative model, not through superior strength imposing their will, but through superior philosophy offering a choice. They showed that cooperation could be chosen, not enforced. Captain Daniels tensed beside Vorin. The architects were revealing humanity's role in the transformation, and not everyone in the galaxy knew the full truth. More significantly, the architects said, others chose to follow this example. The Draviks, a species steeped in imperial tradition, reformed themselves. The Federation formed not through conquest but genuine alliance. 47 species working together, sharing resources and knowledge freely. The images showed the joint construction projects, the cultural exchanges, the mixing of technologies and ideas. Voren saw his own face in some of the footage, arguing passionately for inclusion and cooperation in the early Federation debates. You have demonstrated the capacity for change. The question remains, is this change genuine or merely a response to external pressure? Would you maintain cooperation without our evaluation forcing your hand? The question hung in space like a challenge. Voren knew that his answer would speak for billions. We cannot prove our sincerity with words, he transmitted to the architects. Only time and consistent action can do that, but I believe this change is real because I lived through it. I was part of the old system, enforcing hierarchy and conquest. I chose to change not because I was forced, but because I was shown a better way. That choice is now embedded in our culture. The Federation exists because we want it to exist. Commander Scylla added her voice. I spent 15 years working alongside humans, learning their perspective. They showed us that diversity creates strength, that cooperation achieves more than competition. These aren't just political slogans. We've proven it through measurable results. Other voices joined from ships throughout the fleet. Kelith, Servin, Morthan, and dozens of other species shared their stories. Some spoke of liberation from oppression, others of newfound purpose, all of them testifying to genuine transformation. The architects were silent for long minutes. Then, we acknowledge your growth. This galaxy has shown more progress in 15 years than in the previous 1,000. However, our evaluation is not complete. You have demonstrated the capacity for change. Now you must demonstrate sustainability. The massive construct began shifting, its geometry reconfiguring in ways that hurt to watch. We will return in 100 of your years. If the cooperation you have built persists, if you continue to grow and evolve together, then we will welcome you as peers. If you regress to old patterns, we will make different arrangements. The entity accelerated, folding space around itself in a manner that made human technology look primitive. Within moments, it had departed the galaxy entirely. The fleet remained in formation, processing what had just occurred. They had passed conditionally. The threat of destruction was postponed, not eliminated. Captain Daniels broke the silence. Well, that was terrifying and inspiring in equal measure. Voren laughed, a sound of relief and continuing tension. 100 years. We have 100 years to prove this is real. Then we better get to work, Commander Scylla said, already pulling up development plans for expanding the Federation. Voren looked at the diverse fleet surrounding him, vessels crewed by dozens of species working together toward common purpose. The battleship that had appeared impossibly close 15 years ago had been exactly where it needed to be. Close enough to offer help, close enough to show another way, close enough to give hope. The galaxy had been given a chance. Now came the hard part, living up to it.